Hey everybody, it's Mrs. Jones. First I want to thank a lot of my subscribers because I haven't uploaded a video in a long time, and so it's really cool to see the subscriber list get bigger and bigger when I really haven't done much this year. And the reason I haven't done much is because I'm a student teacher. So today I'm going to be talking about some things that I've learned being a cooperating teacher with a student teacher, and then I really hope to get my student teacher kind of interview her so she can talk about the student teaching aspect of it. First of all, just like with the classroom setup, preparation is absolutely the key to have things running smoothly. If at all possible, you need to set aside an area in your classroom for that student teacher. Now I know in our classrooms that real estate is a hot commodity, and oftentimes there just aren't enough adult desks in your school to go around. So even if you can just give them a student desk, but you want to have it close to you so that, you know, after school and before school you can talk together. But you want to make sure that they understand that they have a place. And really simple things, you know, things that we think of often with our students but maybe not so much with adults. Is there a secure place for that person to put their purse if they're a woman? Where do you go to the bathroom? You know, what are opportunities for lunch? Where do you have lunch? Do you eat as a team in the teacher's room? Where are things like microwaves and fridges and stuff like that? If at all possible, if you can meet with your student teacher beforehand, usually several weeks, that's best. And if it can be in your own classroom, that's even better because they can see the environment that they're talking about. But also be very flexible. Many times your student teacher is working right before student teaching, and so you may have to have like a lunch on the weekend or something like that. But meeting together is critical. If your student teacher is starting at the beginning of the school year, I would invite them to come while you're setting up the classroom, even if that's several weeks before their student teaching actually starts. Because you really want to, the greatest gift you can give your student teacher is not just, you know, the 9 to 3. It's all the other things that that make a good teacher, and part of that is room setup and room arrangement, and talking to them about why you set up your room the way you do. If your student teacher is starting in January, like I did and like my student teacher did, meeting with them before Christmas vacation is really important because you want to give them some homework assignments. So along with setting up a space, you also want to give them supplies. Again, there are lots of things that we just sort of take for granted as teachers that we use on a daily basis. Things like a highlighter, that all-important black Sharpie marker, some pencils, some red correcting pens, and some regular pens. You know, put in a cute little mug, put a gift certificate in there for a coffee shop or something. You know, those are really important supplies that they're going to need. Also, I would give them a binder. And I actually set up my student teacher's binder exactly the same way that I set up my own binder at the beginning of the year. And there are 3 important components that I would have in there. First of all, I'd have a class list with some really basic information, like who's special education, who's Title I, ELL, gifted. And it's also a great time to sit down and have a talk about confidentiality. If you don't know much about the students, that's okay, but you know, a list is really, really important. The next thing that you want to put in is your schedule. Now what I do with my binder, and I do have a binder tour on my channel if you want to look at it, but I actually give them a blank copy. Please excuse all the mess. This is my plan book. I give them blank copies of these forms, and I give them enough for the entire time that they're going to be with me. That, you know, generally 8 to 16 weeks. So they can see the daily schedule is here on the side, so they have that daily schedule is really, really important in when things happen, particularly in elementary school when we don't have a bell schedule. There's no bells ringing us telling us when we're done, and class sizes are different lengths. You know, reading might be longer than math or whatever. And the last thing that you want to give them is some sort of broad overview of what you're going to be doing. It doesn't need to be the nitty-gritty every single day, but what it does need to be is enough to orient your student teacher. Now for myself, I have these forms that I call quarter at a glance. And this is what they look like. This is an example of one. And I give this. And basically it has the dates here along the side, and that has the 4 subject areas, and it's just really general. You know, Unit 5, Week 1, Everyday Math, Unit 4, lesson numbers 4 through 6. Regions of the United States, the Southeast. Very simple and very, very basic. But that's just enough to orient your student teacher. The next thing that you want to have in that binder is if you have any logins or passwords that the student teacher is going to need. For example, a lot of people have an online component with their reading series or with their math series. So if there's a way, there's online or digital planning tools, that's going to be really important. And that leads me to the next thing. If you can get actual hard copies of your math series or your reading series, that's awesome. Scrounge around and see what you can find. But also be aware that many student teachers have no idea how to read a teacher's edition. And when you look at a typical teacher's edition, I mean, let's be honest, this is a lot of information, and it's very, very confusing to a student teacher who's never seen a teacher's edition. And one of the greatest gifts you can give your student teacher is not just, here's the teacher's edition, but this is how you use a teacher's edition. Many student teachers get overwhelmed because they think what this means is you've got to do everything on this page. This is a script and you must follow it word for word. And that is not the case. So you really want to teach them, how do we use, how do we use the facsimiles? How do we, how do we use the teacher's edition? It's such a basic skill. It really surprises me that there isn't more of that in education, because we all know you're going to have to read teacher's editions. And if you're lucky, that's a great place when you're first starting out as a teacher. It's a great resource for you to use. So why not teach them how to use it? Then if there's any other forms that you use, for example, I use Daily 5, so I have conferring forms both in writing and in reading, so I include those in there. I included some dividers, but I basically let the student teacher set things up. I showed her my binder, and then I let her set things up as as works for her, and she gets to keep this binder. She gets to keep all of this stuff, and as well as I gave her some bins to put papers in, because unfortunately she has a small student desk. So lastly, I want to talk about goals. It's really important to sit down with the student teacher and discuss their goals. What are they hoping to get out of the student teaching experience? I'm going to give you a personal experience for me and then one for my student teacher. When I first started in education, we had to do, in elementary education, a lower grade and an upper grade. And I was really upset about the upper grade one, because I thought I knew that I wanted to teach kindergarten or first grade. So I loved my kindergarten first grade experience. I really was challenged by my fourth grade experience. The neat thing is I had a wonderful student teaching experience overall, and wonderful experiences later. And here I am in fourth grade. I've been in fourth grade for 15 years, and I love it. I would not go back to kindergarten and first grade. But at the time, that was my goal. With my student teacher this year, she was getting a dual certification in elementary and special education. And she decided to come to fourth grade. I'm really not sure why she picked fourth, but I'm glad she did. And she was really struggling at the beginning, and when I said, okay, what are your goals? She said, well, I really want to be a high school special ed teacher. And then it just just dawned on me crystal clear that there were certain skills that I was expecting, because I expected she was going to be in an elementary model, that she just didn't have yet. And not only did she not have them, she really didn't need to develop them if she wanted to follow her goals. And so we really kind of altered the student teaching experience to fit her goals. We did a lot more co-teaching, because that's probably a model that she would use at the high school level. And we also did an awful lot of looking at data and taking that data and then turning that into instruction, and then evaluating the instruction, which again gave us more data, which informed our instruction again. So just having that strong data instructional loop, which is, thank goodness, something I'm really, really good at. and something that as a special educator she's going to have to be good at, especially at the high school level. She's going to need to know why students are struggling, not just that they struggle. So that altered things a little bit. It became less about her taking over my elementary classroom and more about what skills is she going to need as a special educator, and what is she learning about fourth graders in general that is going to help her become a better special educator. So I hope this has helped you. If you have any further questions, if you could put them in the comments below, and I will definitely respond. And I hope in the next week or so that I will have an interview with my student teacher, and so you'll get to know her and you'll get to see her take on student teaching. So thanks for tuning in. Bye-bye.